Hi, have you been applying for advertised jobs but just don't seem to be getting anywhere? Are you wondering why some people seem to know where all the juicy opportunities are? Do you know that the vast majority of jobs are just not open to the general public? Does that sound unfair to you? Well, we can uncover these hidden jobs so long as we know where they are and how we can attract these. And we'll be talking about this in the next 2 hours, coming right up. Hello, good afternoon. Can I do a quick sound check and everybody can hear me? If you can, please type into the chat box. You can hear me? Can you hear me okay? All right, very good. I see some yeses. Very good. Welcome to today's session on attacking the hidden job market. My name is Ewan. I'll be your facilitator for the next couple of hours on this really important and interesting topic. Now, I actually do this topic quite regularly for WSG at least twice a year and maybe sometimes even 3 times a year. And then also I've got requests from other companies to share this particular aspect to their staff, to their colleagues as well. Okay, this topic I find it is so important that not only job seekers need to know this, but anybody who is concerned about their own career progression needs to know this. Okay, now I'm a practicing career coach. I've been on my own doing coaching, career coaching for the past almost 8 years now. Right? And apart from this topic of the hidden job market, I also do other topics for WSG like what you see popping up here. Okay. Towards the end of today's session, if you are interested in attending any of the other workshops and webinars, please stay tuned because the schedule will be up there and then you can sign up for it. All right. At the same time, I have also actually done an e-course on how to change your careers because this is my speciality. Most of my clients are actually people who actually want to change their careers either midstream or in their later years. Okay, so I thought I'd just do an e-course where people can actually do this on their own time, own target. Now, if you're interested later on, you can actually contact me to know how you can access this e-course. Right. Now, at the same time, I also actually train other people to become career coaches. Okay, so this is actually a passion of mine because then it means there are more people out there to help other job seekers find the career that they want. Okay, so this is a passion project for me. Okay, right. Now, a little bit by myself already. So hopefully now it's your turn. If you can share a little bit about yourself to me, all right, so that I know how I can emphasize certain points during today's session. Okay, so I'm going to pop up a poll, and if you can help me fill this up. Okay, so if I look at the live polling right now, okay, the bulk of you are in your later career, over 45. The bulk of you are unemployed. Some are returning to the workforce. Some are actually thinking of making a career switch. All right. So far, right now, the bulk of you have not been to my workshops before, so that's good. So a lot of stuff will be new to you. That's fantastic. Okay, so let me keep this poll open for the next maybe 50 seconds or so that hopefully you all can let me know more detail about your profile so I know where to emphasize. Okay, we've reached a 70% mark. So let me revisit this again. Okay, still most people are mid to late career. Okay, that's fine. The bulk are unemployed again. All right. Again, the number of people making a career switch has gone up slightly. Okay, again, the bulk of you have not come to my workshops before. Okay, all right. So we have hit the 75% mark. So that's great. So now I know, okay, most of you are unemployed. Okay. And I think, there's a fair number of people are above 30. Okay. Most of you are actually above 40. So I'll be emphasizing certain points to help you with that. There's some people who are thinking of career switching, and most of you have not been to my workshops before. Okay, good. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. Okay, so I know where I'm going to angle my workshop for you, so that it gives you a better takeaway. All right. Now, the next question I want to ask you all is this, right? You are now here on this topic of attacking the hidden job market, which means you are really concerned about how you actually find jobs. So let me ask you now, if you can type into the chat box, how did you secure your most recent job? How did you secure or find your most recent job? Can you type in the chat box? How did you find or secure your most recent job? Is it through looking at newspapers, okay, website, agency from recruiter, LinkedIn, job portal? Very good. Any other? Headhunter, okay, job street, agency, job search portal, networking, I like that, referrals. All right, very good. But my career's future, headhunter. Okay, so it seems like an even balance here. That's great. Okay, agency, LinkedIn, job street. Okay, very good. That is a very good balance here. Okay, typically when I ask this question in my past workshops, most people basically pitch in to say that they've gone through all the job portals, the newspapers. If in the old timers we use newspapers on Saturday Classified, right? Okay, good. Now, are you one of those people in your job search process? In your job search process, it's been a crap experience. Now, I'm not trying to be facetious here, okay? CRAP is an acronym that stands for something. Okay, what does it stand for? Basically, you click on advertisement, you review it, and then you apply for it. Okay, then what happens after that? After you apply, the last P is what? You are praying for a response. Now, for those of you who have been having difficulty getting responses from your job applications, right? What does that mean? Are you doing something wrong? Now, typically, when you are not getting any responses, one of the biggest mistakes is probably your resume is probably not up to par. Now, that is not the only reason. Okay, that is not the only reason. Let's say if your resume is beautiful and really nicely written and all that, but you're still not getting any responses. Why? Could it be that you fall into some of the categories here, which I've seen in the feedback that you've given to me? Are you looking to switch careers? Are you somebody in your later career stage? Or are you someone who's just coming back to work after a long absence? Think about this, right? Now, you can imagine this. If you are in those categories, what does it mean? If you come to cross something like this, right? It's a known fact that more than around 25% jobs are posted, 15% are through headhunters. Okay. Now this is basically what? This is what we call the advertised job market. But what about those places, those jobs, those opportunities that are not in the public domain? They are confidential in nature. What about these? These are typically jobs that are only sourced or available through networking or through internal referrals. Wow, you might say to yourself, that makes it difficult for you, right? Because if you think about it, then how am I going to know what these things are? Where are these opportunities? Right? So, the first thing you need to understand is this, okay? You need to look at what is the current hiring trends, okay? And how these hiring trends affect the way you find jobs. So that's the first key thing you need to know. The second key thing you need to know is basically how you can use your unique selling points and how you can value add to the companies so that you are valuable to them. And then once you do that, once you know your strengths, how can you identify what are the companies here? Okay, so that's the second learning point. But once you know that, then what else? Then you need to be able to know how to reach out to them. Okay, so here we're looking at how you can be a magnet to attract opportunities. At the same time, what can you do to reach out to people to find those opportunities? All right. So that's what we're going to cover over the next couple of hours or so. Okay. 3 key learning points. Okay. Now, if I look at this throughout the whole session, one of the key things I need everyone to understand is this. No longer can you be passive in your approach to job search. Okay? If you're going after the hidden job market, you need to do some legwork. Okay? So whatever I'm going to describe to you over the next couple of hours basically implies that you have to put in the effort. It's no longer the CRA approach where you click, review, and apply and just wait for opportunities to come in. Right? That's not going to happen so easily now. Okay? So, but the rewards will be there if you put in the effort. Is that all right? Okay, so that is the underlying premise that I need you all to absorb throughout this whole 2 hours. Okay, so plenty to cover these 2 hours. So let me sort of share with you some logistics first. Okay, so given that we only have about 2 hours to cover a lot of things, I'm not going to be able to give you a lot of coffee breaks, but I'm going to give you some stretch breaks in between as often as I can. All right, 5 to 10 minutes or so. Now, you will notice also that I muted everyone. This is so that we don't distract each other. Okay, but if you have any questions, please type your questions into the chat box, but please preface your question with a capital Q. Okay, so after every section that you see here, I will come and scan through the chat box to see what questions they are pertaining to that section itself. All right, so I'm going to answer it that way. Is that all right? Okay. And then very importantly here, for the first time in a long while, like those of you who've been to my past workshops before, you notice that this is something new. Okay. I have made available to you guys a workbook that you can follow, right, throughout the whole session. Okay, so the link is in the chat box. All right. Now, many will probably have, especially those of you who have not been to my workshops before, will be thinking, can I get a copy of the slides? All right. My short answer is no, I will not be giving you a copy, but I will be actually giving you a better alternative, which is an access to the video recording of this particular workshop. Okay. So towards the end of today's session, I'm going to tell you how you can get hold of the link for this video itself. Right? But for those of you who really want to just take screenshots, right, by all means, feel free to do so. Okay, by all means, feel free to do so. Okay. Anybody got any questions along the way? Anybody got any questions now? Are we okay to do this process itself? Right? Hopefully you're okay with this. Huh? So because this is something I find that through the last 5 years or so, I've been doing this workshop for WSG. It seems to work best for everyone. Okay? All right. Good. We have about just over 100 people who've signed up. So I'm just going to continue. We're not going to wait for the rest of them. So I think for those of you who are on time, I'm going to give you respect and start now. Okay. Cheers. All right. So first things first, let's review current hiring trends and how we can interpret these hiring trends. Now, one of the things that you may ask me is, why is this important? Why do we need to understand what the current hiring trends are? Why do we need to understand what the current hiring trends are? Well, basically, it's very simple. It's very simple. Once you know how employers think, then you know what you need to do. Correct enough, right? Once you know how employers think, then you know, I know if they think it like this, then this is what I must do. Okay? Now, one of the best ways I find to help my clients understand this aspect, is really to ask them to think in different perspectives. So I'm going to ask you to think in 2 perspectives today. Okay, in 2 perspectives. One as a job seeker, another one as an employer. Okay, so it'd be interesting exercise. If you've never been thinking about yourself as an employer, this is a chance for you to think about it now. All right, so first things first. For many of you, you are job seekers. Okay, put on your hat as a job seeker. Put on your hat as a job seeker. All right, so what do we mean? What do we mean by a job seeker? Basically, it's someone who wants to find a job. All right, wants to find a job. Okay, so what does it mean when you are a job seeker and you want to look for a job? You want to be able to identify where are the jobs. Okay, so typically there are different channels. Okay, there are different channels like you listed here. Many of you have also described it in the chat box just now. Okay, now my question here is this. What is your most preferred way of finding jobs and what is your least preferred way of finding jobs? Again, I'm going to do this as a poll. So if you can look at the poll, I'm just popping it up right now. Okay, so there should be two questions here. Right? What is your most preferred way of finding a job and what is your least preferred way of finding a job? Can you just pop that in and then we'll just have a view of what is your feedback. Wow, okay. So quite a few people are saying the most preferred one, referrals, very good. Advertisement is the next one, headhunter. The least preferred way, okay, so, oh, interesting, advertisement. This is a sophisticated crowd, very good. All right, so 43%. Any changes from there? Let me just go through this again. Referrals again seems to be the most preferred way. Okay, fair enough. Advertisement is the least preferred way. Interesting. Okay, so we have about just over 60% who's filled this up. Let me see if there's any changes. Okay, very good. Interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, so most of you are just saying that referrals are the most preferred way of you looking for a job, and the least preferred way is advertising. Oh, interesting. Okay, now let's do the other interesting part here. Think of yourself now as an employer, someone who is looking for suitable candidates. Someone who is looking for suitable candidates. Okay, so if you think about it, what is your most preferred way of looking for candidates to fill a job? And what is your least preferred way of looking to fill the job opening? Okay, again, I've launched a poll. If you can put that in for me, right, and let me see what your response is. Okay, so most preferred way is still headhunter, referrals. Internal transfer is the most preferred. Okay, referrals. Okay, all right. Advertisement is the least preferred. Wow, very good. Yeah, you're knowledgeable here. Maybe some of you are already employers. Okay, advertisement is still the least preferred. And the most preferred is either through internal transfer or referrals. Okay, very good. Thank you so much for your feedback. And I like it that you guys are knowledgeable about this because I just want to make sure that we are all level set on this. Okay, so if you look at the scale of those items that you see in the center column, advertise, headhunters, networking, referral, and internal transfers. Okay, so there is a significant difference between employers and job seekers in the way we want to look for jobs versus the way employers prefer to source for candidates. Okay, essentially, if you look at it, all right, it's diametrically opposite. It's diametrically opposite because many job seekers prefer the easy way out. They just say, oh, I don't need to go and look for it. I just look at the newspaper, I look at the job portal, oh, it's available, I apply for it. Whereas for many employers, what they prefer is actually just do an internal. Usually that's the case. And why? Why is that so? Why is that so? If you look at it, if you're looking from the perspective of the employer, when you send an advertisement out, you typically get a lot of responses, which means you as an employer, you have to sift through all the resumes. Some are nonsense, some are very good, but minority are very good. Most are usually probably not suitable for the job, but you still have to do the legwork to find. Okay? As you go down the chain, the number of people you have to review gets lesser and lesser, right? Especially when you come down to internal transfers. Then usually when internal transfers, you have a view of maybe there are one or two persons that are suitable for the vacancy if you're internal transfers. Okay, so that's from the perspective of the employer. Now, why do you think, what's underlying all these things? What's underlying all these things? Basically, it's very simple. Employers are risk averse. they don't want to take risks when they're hiring people. So they want to hire people they know best. Okay, so typically internal people who are working currently in the company, the same company, are the people they know best because they can talk to the bosses, they have observed them personally and all that. Okay, so what does this mean? What does this mean for all of us? What does this mean for all of us? So you have these two things here. You have job seekers, you have employers. So how? How can you bridge the gap? How can you bridge the gap? Knowing that employers are essentially risk averse. Basically, it boils down to something as simple as this is how you convince the employer that you are suitable for that job. How you convince the employer that you're suitable for that job. Okay? Now, my question again to you. If we know that employers are risk averse, if we know that employers are risk averse, okay, then what do job seekers need to do in order to secure a job? Can you type into the chat box now? If you know that employers are risk averse, what do you as a job seeker need to do in order to convince them that you are the right person for the job? Can you type into the chat box and let's see what your thoughts are? Anyone? What do you need to do? Okay, get a reference, possibly. Okay, get a reference. Anything else? Is that all? There's quite a few things you need to do, right? Match the job scope, okay? Do the match the job scope. Testimonial, present yourself an asset rather than a liability. Testimonials, again, relevant skill sets, tailor your resume to the job as much as possible. Fair enough, okay? So the underlying thing I see many of you, avoid risks, show how we can reduce risk. Resume is specific. Connect with the boss. Latest tech skill, meet job description. Okay, very good. I think many of you are on the right track in the sense that basically there are a few things we need to do. Okay, we need to be very targeted and customized. Okay, we cannot go all over the shop. We must be very targeted and customized because we want to make sure that we are relevant to that company. We have the relevant skills. Okay. The other thing that we need to understand is this: because employers are risk averse, it helps a lot to convince them when you already have established a relationship with them in the first place. Okay. Then the last bit, which I think is the most critical part, is you have to understand and present to them as a person who can help them. As a person who can help them. Okay? So, at the end of the day, if you think about it carefully, yeah, when you are applying for a job, it is not about you, no? Honestly, it is not about you. Okay? It is about what? It's about how you can help them. How you can help them. Right? And for those of you who are career switchers later in the career stage or who are coming back to work after a long absence, this becomes even more critical of how you can actually help them. So you must think of it this way. No longer is it about you anymore, about how good you are and all, what skills you have. Now you have to think about how you use those skills and abilities and experience. How can you use that to help the people on this side? Okay, that is the underlying principle. That is the underlying principle. I hope you can get this, because I will keep coming back to this underlying principle throughout the next couple of hours. Okay, all right. So we just spent the last few minutes trying to give an overview of what are the current hiring trends and how this affects the way you find jobs. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, the focus should not be on yourself, but the focus should be on how you actually position yourself to help potential employers. Okay, how you help potential employers. So if there's nothing else, then let me just touch on this second portion. Okay, now here, all right, I am going to talk about how we identify what we are good at, how we can value add, so that we can better position ourselves for good, the better position ourselves to the right organization, so that we can go on the right career path. Okay, so that is the key thing that I'm going to discuss over the next few minutes for this particular section. Okay, so my first question again to you now is this. When you are looking for a job or career, what matters to you? What matters to you when you're looking for a job or career? Can you type into the chat box? What are the things that are important to you when you're working or you're looking for a job? What are the things that are important to you? Can you type into the chat box? I'm sure there are things that are important to you, right? So, what are the things that are important to you? Okay, work life balance, sense of fulfillment, culture, location, meaningful work. Work life balance is coming up again, career development, job satisfaction, culture, growing, learning, location is another one, chemistry with boss and colleagues, people we work with, right? So, thank you so much. So there's actually a lot of factors we are very concerned about right now, right? A lot of factors that we're very concerned about, and these could be all the elements that you see there. Okay, how does it match up with our values? What are our work styles? You know, how can we be of value add to the company, the culture, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so it's good that we know this. Now, there are lots of ways to find this out. There's lots of ways to find this out. Now, why I start with this portion first is very important, huh? Because if you are not clear about what matters to you, then really you're going to jump in and out of jobs and companies very haphazardly. Okay, and that's going to be a very big strain on your career progression. Okay, so why not spend the time to try and understand all the elements that's important to you when you're looking for a job or career first? Okay, do that little step and try and understand that first. Okay, so now, like I said before, many ways to look at this, many ways to look at this, right? But I'm going to keep it simple. For those of you who have been to my past workshops before, you know my style, right? I'm keeping it simple, and this is something that I always use. This is something I always use. Now, those of you who have the workbook, if you can download the workbook, you go to this page. I think page 7, I believe. If I look at this, huh? Yes, right? On page 7 here, it says meaningful experiences. If you can go to that page on the workbook on meaningful experiences. Okay, all right. So, this particular exercise is actually a very simple exercise. Very simple exercise. And every time I do this as a group, there's always going to be someone who comes to me and say, oh my goodness, I never realized that those things are important to me. Now, how do we find this out? Very simple. As you can see from the workbook, essentially there are 4 columns. Essentially there are 4 columns. Okay, so you have what you are doing now or before, job titles, whether it's voluntary or part-time or whatever. Okay, what are the activities related to the job? What you like most about the job? What you dislike most about the job? So really 4 columns, very simple. Okay, so what are the things that you need to put in? Basically, you have to put down at least 3 past or current job activities. At least 3. And then put down what you like and didn't like from these activities itself. Okay. Now, some of you may be asking, why 3 activities? Why 3 jobs or 3 past or current jobs? Well, the reason for this is very simple. We are trying to spot patterns here. So if there's anything less than 3, there's a risk that maybe those 2 jobs or activities that you have been doing are basically just coincidental, that it just so happens that, you know, those are the things there, right? But if you have 3 or more, it allows you a chance to spot patterns in your past job so that you know, based on your past experiences, okay, what you like most, what you didn't like about the jobs that you have done. Okay, and at the end of this exercise, this is what you can achieve. You then know what you prefer in your next job or your next career. All right, isn't that a very powerful piece of knowledge, piece of information for you? Don't you think so? Okay, knowing that this is what you like and dislike, right? And armed with this knowledge, you can then go forth and search for the job that has those items. Okay? Now, we don't have time to actually do this live with you now since it's only a couple of hours. All right. So I would suggest you do this as a homework. You do this as a homework. Okay. So again, like I said, I find that many people who have done this have found it so useful. So please go and try. Go and try. No harm, right? You are here, you spend the next 2 hours. Go and try these activities. So this is the first activity. Okay? Right. No questions, I hope. Or if you've got any questions, type it in. All right? Because I think it's a very simple one. But again, I don't see any questions. Okay, good. All right. So I want to come back to this notion. So you have that portion about what you prefer in your next job or your next career, what you like and don't like. Okay? So let's deal with this particular topic now. So that part, the earlier part was knowing yourself, what you like and dislike. Now, then the question now here is this: how then you relate it to your potential employer? How do you relate it to the people, the potential company that you want to join? Okay, so underlying principle here again, I mentioned, okay, employers are risk averse, correct? Employers are risk averse. So how do you then minimize risk? You want to be an asset. You want to be an asset, right? You want to be an asset. Okay? So my question to all of you now is this: how can you be an asset? How can you be an asset to employers? Think about this. Maybe you type into the chat box. How do you think you can be an asset to employers instead of being a risk? Jaden, yes, I'll be providing a link to the video recording towards the end of this session, or rather I'll share with you a way to find out. Okay? Not to worry. So how do you think? How do you think you can be an asset? Okay? So some people say transferable skills, show my past achievements, all right? Good track record, thought processes, all right? So those are what? Those are show understanding of their business, fine. Then how? Past work experience. Okay, so doing your best at all times. What I noticed from the comments that many of you have put here, all right, it's coming more or less from saying what you can do. Okay, what I need you to think about is not so much what you can do. Remember, it's not about you, it's about how you can help them. How you can help them, right? So, which means what? In order to be the best asset that you can be, is basically you have to be able to solve their immediate problem. Otherwise, why should they hire you? They're hiring you to solve a problem. They're hiring you to solve a problem. It could be a business problem, it could be a manpower problem, whatever. It all depends on the job that they are looking to fill. All right? So there must be a problem that you need to solve. Otherwise, what for they hire, right? What for they open up the position. Okay? So there must be something. There must be a problem they're looking to solve. Now, in order to become a problem solver, what is the first thing you need to know? In order to become a problem solver, what is the first thing you need to know? Anyone? What is the first thing you need to know? Some says know the problem. What's their problem? Now, eventually, you need to know that. The first thing you need to know is what are you good at? What are you good at? Okay? What are your strengths? What are your abilities? What are your competencies? And what you like to do? All those things you need to know first. Okay? Then you start thinking, okay, those are the things I like and I can do. I'm an expert in this. All right? Then you start looking at what? You start looking at what sort of, using your skills and experience and competencies, whatever, what problems can you solve by using all those things? What problems can you solve by using all those things? All right? Okay? So first thing is obviously knowing what you are good at, what you like to do. Then from there, translate that into what problems you can solve. Right? then you become the solution because you have all those knowledge and experience. You have identified the problem that you can solve, and therefore you are the solution. Okay, you are the solution. Now, could be some questions now popping up in your head and say, but how do I find out what their problems are? What do I find out what their problems are? Okay, I'm going to show you how. Okay, one question here is if I have a new skill but don't have much experience using it. So now my next section, the next few slides is really to help you find a way to identify this portion, right? Your skills, your competencies, your preferences. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. Okay, now workbook again. Okay, workbook again. If I look at your workbook, what page is that workbook in? This particular portion. Okay, it's on page 10. It's on page 10. Okay, so if you can go to page 10, you can follow on with me. Okay, as I explain this particular matrix, you can put it in. You can put it in how it relates to you. Okay. Now, you notice there, the blue horizontal line here, all right? This is competency. This is competency. I'm not good at this. I'm good at this. Okay? How competent you are. Then we have this portion here, the vertical one. I like to do, I don't like to do. That's what? That is preference. That is preference. Okay? So we have competency at the top, we have preference at the bottom, on the column here. Okay. So this becomes very interesting already. This becomes very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the first box, which is the purple box. Purple box here, okay? I'm good at this. I like to do this. I'm good at this. I like to do this. Right. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Essentially, we're looking at skills, our capabilities that we enjoy using because we are good at it and we like to do this. We are good at this and we like to do this. So can you think of those things that you can put in there right now that you are good at and you like to do? Okay? Type it in. Type it into the document, into the worksheet or whatever, or maybe some other piece of paper. Type it in. What are your motivated skills? What are your motivated skills? Now, for me, my motivated skills that I feel I'm good at and I like to do is this. Delivering workshops like this to help job seekers. I enjoy doing this, okay? And I believe I've done it well enough over the last few years in order to achieve a level of success. So that is my motivated skill. That is my motivated skill. Okay? Have you all typed it in already? Right? Have you typed in what your motivated skills are? All right? Don't worry, if I think there were some couple of questions about, I'm still new to the workforce and all that. I don't have much experience. Now, this one has nothing to do with experience. This has to do with what you like and what you're good at. Okay? It may not be work related, but sometimes this can be translated into a work environment. You'll be surprised. Okay? All right. So, motivated skills. Hopefully, you've got something there. Okay. Next one I'm going to talk about is the red box. The red box. I like the red box because it highlights certain things. Okay. What is the red box? I'm good at this, but I don't like to use it. I'm sure many of you have got that experience, right? You may be good at something, but you really don't like to do it. Okay. So these are what we call burnout skills. Burnout skills. Now, in my example, I was told, right, in my past career before I took up coaching, I was good at chasing numbers. I was good at chasing numbers, right? So I've always been given multi-million budgets to achieve sales targets or whatever. Okay, I managed to do that, but it burns me out because although I'm good at it, I really didn't like to do it. So that was my burnout skill. So what is your burnout skill? What is your burnout skill? Okay, type this in. Type this in. Make sure you understand what your burnout skill is. Are we okay so far? Right? So we have motivated skills, we have burnout skills. Right. Next one. Let's talk about the orange box. You're not good at this, but you like to do it. You're not good at this, but you like to do it. And I saw some questions that, some of you fall into this category. Right? You're not good at this, but you like to do it. Basically, it would encourage you to go and learn more about how to better use this particular skill and experience. Okay, so we call this developmental skill. Now, if you have skills in this area, the positive here is that you will be very strongly inclined to go and learn how to use this. Okay, so it's important that you have some things there. It's important that you have some things there. Okay, now for me personally, my developmental skills over the last couple of years was basically crafting something like this. Okay, developing a presentation style or presentation format that is that were able to capture attention. So not just the normal way of doing presentation online. So I had to learn this. I liked it, but I had to learn and relearn a lot of different things. Relearn a lot of different things. Okay? All right. So developmental skills. Okay, type in your developmental skills. There was one question here. There is one question here is how to get a job with just developmental skills. I suggest you take a look at maybe you have more skills, not just developmental. Okay, you could have some motivated skills. So do the exercise. Think about what other motivated skills you have. Now, as far as looking for a job is concerned, it doesn't mean that you only look for jobs in a particular square box. Okay, I'll come to that in a little while, how you use this particular matrix. Huh? So let's talk about the last one here. Right? This one is I'm not good at this and I don't like to do it. So essentially, is it something that you probably want to avoid? Right? Because basically you're not good at it and you don't like to do it. So we call this irrelevant skills. Okay, so I'm sure some of you have this. Okay, I know I have this. Right now is more like how should I put it, cost control. Okay, so I'm not good at controlling costs and I just don't like to do it. So to me it's irrelevant for my business. Okay, for my business. Now let's address this whole topic, this whole issue of then how do I use this particular information. So you've got all the four boxes covered. Okay, so are we saying now that when you look for a job, you should look for a job that only involves motivated skills or developmental skills? You want to avoid jobs that have burnout skills and all that. Is that the case? What do you think? Can you find a job that only allows you to only use motivated skills and nothing else? Do you think you can find a job like this? Chances are probably not. Chances are probably not, right? So in every job, every career, there's always going to be a situation where you would have to use skills that are either in the orange or the red box, the burnout box. All right. So how to then choose? It's your personal choice. It all depends on your priorities and your stage in life. Okay. So if you are someone who's starting out young or mid-career and you are very ambitious, then probably you won't mind actually having a significant amount of activities that are falling into the burnout skills job. Okay, so by all means, right, it's your personal choice. However, if you are in the later stages of your career, maybe you feel that no, my priorities are different now. I rather do something that I enjoy, that I'm good at. So the motivated skills. So you are looking for jobs which allow you to use the motivated skills portion. If you are just starting out, right? Like some of you have just mentioned, right? You are new to work and all that. You have most of your things are in the developmental skill set. Okay? Then you will look for jobs that allow you to learn on the job or allow you to get more experience in those particular areas. So you have to then look for companies that allow you to do that. Okay, no point for you if you're someone who's starting just learning and starting out career. No point for you to look for jobs that are very established and requires you to do a lot of things that in the burnout skills which you don't have. No point, right? So look for jobs that have requirements that allow you to develop your skills further. Okay, so that's where it comes about matching jobs, which I'm going to talk about in the next step. Is that all right? Okay, so there are a few questions here. I'm going to address this towards the end of this section, but I think they're very good questions. So let me just move on first. Okay, so now we have completed this little discussion on how we capture what we like to do and what we are good at, competency and preference. Okay, so we have a better picture now, right now. Okay, so it's not so simple as it's not so easy and simple as just listing down, oh, these are my skills, these are my qualifications. It's no longer that simple already. Okay, because now you're putting in things about your preference, what you prefer to do. Okay, so that is the key thing here. So what are you going to do with this now? What are you going to do with this? So the next step now is to look at how you identify problems. How you identify problems. Again, if you look at the worksheet here, if I go to this, it should be on page 11. Page 11. Okay, so basically there are three columns here. There are three columns here. Okay, so I'm going to go through with you certain examples of how you can do this. How you can do this. Okay, don't forget, you are still at the back of your head knowing what are the things you can do, what you're good at, and all that. Okay, those are the things at the back of your, because you've done the exercise just now that I mentioned. Okay, so let's say now, okay, you've gone through the exercise and you identified, oh, I have very extensive people management experience and I've got a very good track record of building effective teams. So that's my skills, my experience. I like to do this, or maybe that's something that you want to do. You want to expand more, and you have evidence of this. Okay. So if you have this set of experiences, and I'm sure many of you have, what problems can you solve? Put on your thinking cap now. You have all these experiences and expertise in the blue box. What problems can you solve? Can you type into the chat box? What problems can you solve? Team leader, well, it's not being a team leader is not a problem. What is the problem here? What is the problem you can solve when you have extensive people management experience? A good team leader will solve what problem? Yeah, I need you to put on your thinking cap and go through. Low productivity. Yeah, that's one problem. Internal conflict is another problem. Yeah. What else? Any other problems that when you have good lack of coordination? Yeah. Supply chain issue. Okay. I mean, if people management can help supply chain, by all means. Poor motivation. Okay. Poorly performing team, right? Poor motivation. Yeah. Hit department goals in the team. Business growth. Poor business growth, you mean? Okay, fine. Attendance and punctuality issues. Cross-cultural teams not matching. Okay. Finding it difficult to relate to customers. Okay. So here, many of you are on the right track. You need to think about what is the problem you can solve with that experience. So from this example, it could be the problem is what? High staff turnover, low morale, the teams are underperforming. Those are the problems you can address with your experiences here. Those are the problems you can address. Then you think about how you solve the problem, right? Some of you have put down there how you solve the problem. You jump the gun. You build effective teams, right? Somebody put down team leader. You are an effective team leader. You mentor the less experienced colleagues. You provide very clear direction. All the elements of a team leader. Okay? So the green box is how you do it. The yellow box, that is the critical one, is what problems can you solve? Think about this. Once you can identify those things in the yellow box, you can take that yellow box and go to each company that you're keen to work with and say, do they have that problem? If they have that problem, they think, wow, I can help them solve that problem. And that puts you in a very strong position to convince them. Capish? Right? Okay? So the yellow box thing is the thing that makes it portable for you to go around finding out which companies need your expertise. need your expertise. Okay, another example here. In-depth experience in launching new products, expanding into new markets. So if you're a marketing person, you have done this before. Okay, very strong experience in launching new products. What's the problem? What's the problem you can solve? So, jump the gun. I'm going to go straight into this. Maybe the company doesn't have strong international presence. Maybe the company has got low market share. Maybe the company has got very limited budget, limited marketing budget. So you can help them solve this problem. What? How do you solve it? By having very strong consumer insights, purchasing habits. You got a very good, strong network, right? And you've demonstrated effective budget controls. Okay. So again, I want to emphasize here, knowing what problems you can solve allows you to take that thing in the yellow box and bring it to any company that you're interested in working with and find out, do they have those problems? If they have those problems, then you hit the jackpot because you can solve that problem for them. Okay, so please make the differentiation between the yellow box and the green box. Okay, don't think about things in the green box and the blue box only. No, really translate it into the problems you can solve. The problems you can solve. Okay, right. So let me address some of the questions here at this point. Okay, let me just see. There were quite a few. Okay. KY says how to negotiate with potential employer to reduce the scope of burnout skills and employer would like to hire you for the skills you are good at. Okay. This is a choice you have to make. Okay. Before you go and look at the employer, you have to do your research and say, does that job involve me using a lot of my burnout skills? That's a choice you have to make. If you're willing to do that, then fine, go and aggressively grab that job. If you feel that, hey, I don't want to use my burnout skills too much, then, the question you have to ask yourself, then why are you applying for that job? Because if you go into that job, chances are that the boss is going to want you to do that, right? Chances are you're not going to be happy. Yes, you can maybe stay for 1 or 2 years, but, are you going to stay for long term? That is a question you ask yourself. I cannot answer this for you, okay? So that is your priority, okay? So next question. Okay, if I scan down, sorry, I'm just looking for the capital Q. Okay, Gary is this question. How to demonstrate your ability as a problem solver for a problem that the potential employer has not realized yet, so as to create a role not currently being considered for recruitment? Thank you, Gary. That is a big question which I'm going to address towards the end of the 3 sections itself. Overall. Okay, so Gary, I have specifically put aside a portion of this to answer that particular question. Okay, so I'm going to address that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so now it is almost 3 o'clock. It's almost 3 o'clock. Why don't we take a 10-minute break, right? And use that 10-minute break for you to actually try out this particular exercise. Okay? If you want to share some problem-solving statements later on when we come back after 10 minutes, by all means do so, all right? But give it a try. Maybe then you have more questions or more thoughts about it. Is that all right? Okay? So I see you guys back here in 10 minutes. All right? See you there. All right. Okay. Hope you had a good stretch break and hope you had some time to actually try this out. Okay, try this out and get some thinking juices going. Right. Let me address a couple of questions here. Okay, so I saw one from Janice that says that, let me just pull this up so that everybody can see this. Okay, so is it right to say then we should highlight the green box content in our CV interview and talk about the yellow box during the interview? Okay, I think Gary also tried to explain some perspectives here. What I like to sort of maybe suggest is this. When you are putting things into your CV, right, it is not just about listing skills and experience and all that, right? You're looking at putting down accomplishment statements. Correct? Not? Accomplishment statements. Which means what? It basically means that you have to put down statements to show evidence, right, that you have done something successfully. Okay? So accomplishment statement, usually the format is, so I think those of you who know, STAR, situation, task, action, and results. Okay, so situation, task, action, and result basically is encompasses all the elements that you see here, the blue, the yellow, and the green box. Okay, so if you think about listing down your accomplishment statements in that format, then you basically capture all the stuff that you see here already. So it's not about only emphasizing green box or only emphasizing yellow box or whatever. It is about how you can piece them all together, right? Put it down in your CV, or how you express it during your interview or even during your networking. Okay, so hopefully that sort of gives you a better idea, Janice, on the way we can use this. Okay, so let me see, there's another question here. Okay, okay, so one question here is, no, I will consider myself having more developmental skills than motivated skills, and I don't have the luxury of time to work on my developmental skills outside of a job. Okay, so I'm not sure what the question is, but my short message here is really, if it's important enough for you, then maybe you should put time aside to do it. Okay, so again, I cannot tell you whether it is important enough for you. You have to decide. Okay, so if you feel that enhancing your skill set so that you can do something that you like is something that's worthwhile doing, then you have to make time for it. Okay, that's a short answer to that question. Okay, so hopefully, so you have to look at, what is your motivation, what is your priorities. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully the rest of you, you had a chance to do this. Okay, I think, even if you don't do it now, I can assure you that once you go through this process of trying to be clear about what you can do, what problems you can solve, it's a very strong and powerful way of presenting yourself to the market, which I'm going to emphasize later on in the next few sections as well. Okay, so hopefully you can understand this. Huh? All right, so now here, what I need to do is, we have already gone through this process of knowing what you are good at, what your competencies are, how you help people. Now really it's about how you match up to the companies. Okay, because there's no point knowing all these things. How you match up to the companies out there, which relates to the question that some of you has asked me, how do we identify those companies? How do we identify those companies? So that's what I'm going to deal with now. Okay, so here is really about trying to figure out which organization should you target. No? Knowing that those are the things that, you have a certain set of skills and experience, you can solve certain problems. Okay, this piece of information in the red arrow is very important. So like I said, so in order to apply this piece of the information in the red arrow, right, how you match up to organizations, there are a few steps you need to do. Okay, and again, this is in the workbook. So let me just bring you through to the page in the workbook. Okay, it's here. It's on page 12. Okay, so we can go through this step by step. All right. So let's go through this together, all right, so that you know what to do, all right, as you go through this, as you fill this up, maybe as a piece of homework again. Okay, now, why is this important? Because this is a process where you can go through and identify what companies suit you the best. Okay, so here, first thing is identify the companies. So how do you identify the companies? You either scan the market through online, talking to people. The things that you need to look for are maybe which companies are growing, which sectors are growing. You talk to your network, okay? And then, from there on, you start building like a database of information for a particular company. Okay? So, now, many of you will probably have some idea already. So I'm going to give you an example of a company, so that I can illustrate the thinking process. This example was through a client that I helped a few years ago to secure a job. Okay, he went through the same process. So he scanned the industry. and he chose Amazon. He chose Amazon. This was in 2017, I believe. 2017, 2018. He chose Amazon. Okay. So he did a lot of research and he knew that Amazon was coming to Singapore to set up a regional distribution center. Then he asked himself, okay, why does this company Amazon excite me? How does it match up to my passion and my interest? Well, it just so happened that this client of mine, he was working in the logistics distribution side, and he's been there for a long time. Okay, and he's very in tune and very, very, very passionate about logistics, about the distribution of goods and services and all that. Okay, so he's very interested in that, and he knows that Amazon is someone who is very sophisticated in this area, and they are coming into Singapore. Can you imagine that? Huh? It's like a match made in heaven, right? As far as he's concerned. Okay, so then what's the next step? What's the next step? How does it relate to me? Okay, so for that client, all right, he has to look at what are his values, his skills, experience, and basically answer the question, why do I fit in with Amazon? So this is a question you need to ask. Why would you fit in with that company? Right? So in his case, right, not only has he got the extensive experience in logistics and distribution, right, he really, he has a skill set. He really likes the atmosphere. He likes the value of the industry, the values, and also he believes at that time that Amazon had reflected his way of thinking. Okay, so he says, that's why I fit in. That's why I think Amazon is the right company for me. Okay, then once you've identified that, then you looked at, okay, then how can I help Amazon? Okay, so here he started looking at what problems he can solve. See, now you start thinking, how can I help a company like Amazon? So he went through the exercise of identify what problems he can solve. And lo and behold, he communicated to Amazon that he has extensive experience in building a distribution network in Singapore and Southeast Asia, right? He has experience in setting up a warehousing. What happens? Those are the problems he can solve. Bang! He presented himself in that sense. Okay. Now, some of you may think, oh no lah, I don't have experience in this area, but how can I go into this? Like some of you may be saying, I want to join Google, but I don't have high tech or IT industry. How can I go into Google? Well, companies like this have other functions also, right? It's not just the industry. They have to have HR, they have to have finance, right? They have to have operations. So even if you don't have logistical experience like my client had, you can still possibly go into a company like Amazon if, for example, you are very strong accounting skills. Because Amazon, when they set up operations here, they have to set up accounting department, right? Or somebody to control costs. Correct or not? Right? So if you're into that, that is the problem you can help them solve. Okay? So I need you to think of it this way, because it's not just about what skills you have, no? It is about how you can help them solve their problems. Okay? How you can help them solve their problems. Okay? So if you want to take a screenshot, by all means you can do so, but it is in the handout, right? This screenshot is in the handout, so maybe you don't need to do that. All right? So hopefully, so when you are compiling the list of companies, try and compile minimum 5 to 8. Okay, so that gives you some breadth of options for you to target. Try not to do too many, not more than 10, because if you have too many companies, then it becomes unmanageable. Then you get all over the shop already. Okay? So hopefully this is something that it will prove useful for you. Because I think, it is a worthwhile exercise. So again, I come back to this notion. You need to be proactive. You need to go out and take action. It's no longer reactive and say, oh, I don't know what the problem is, so I just sit back and wait. No, you have to go out and look for that company. Okay, So there's one question here. How should I know which company should I choose to target? I'm in the IT industry and we have so many companies in the industry. It's your choice. You have to then go in and say, just shortlist a few and dig deeper into the company and find out whether that company suits you, whether the company, the culture, the people, the products, the services, the way it's growing, the way it's operating. You have to choose. Right? That's why I keep saying you have to take action. It's no longer sitting back and letting the information come to you. Okay, if you are really keen on progressing and getting the right career with the dream company, you have to make the effort to go and look for that company. Okay, you have to make the effort to go and choose and dig deeper to find out what's the company all about and whether it matches you. All right, whether it matches you. Okay, all right. So we spent the last half an hour or so going through this portion of helping you identify what your key value add is so that you can better position yourself to look at the right target company so that you have the career progression that you are desiring. Okay, and underlying all this is basically the notion that you want to be able to help solve their problem. You want to be able to help solve their problem. Okay, so that is the underlying principle. Okay, outreach. Okay, here I'm going to talk about how you develop activities to attract the hidden opportunities. Okay, so you've already done your homework on which companies, what problems they have, what you're good at. Now you have to find out how you can attract those opportunities, either being a magnet, okay, or reaching out to people. Being a magnet to attract opportunities or to reach out to people. Now, underlying this whole premise, I'm going to repeat this ad nauseum, okay? It is not about you. Who is it about? It's not about you. Who is it about? It is about how you can help them, okay? This is the whole process when you are reaching out to people. Always remember this phrase. It is not about you. It is about how you can help them, okay? So let's deal with this, how we become a magnet to attract hidden opportunities, the pull factor. Okay, so essentially, in order to become a magnet to opportunities, you have to make yourself known to people, right? You have to make yourself known to people that you're good at something, right? So this is the whole process of personal branding. Now, we don't have time to go through in essence what it is. So I actually have a workshop for on the 26th of May that addresses this. But I can give you also a link to some of my past workshops for you to take a look at this so that, sorry, let me just copy this link here again so that you all can take a look at it. Let me just copy this and paste into the chat box. Okay, so that is the link to that video. Okay, so this is the video for the YouTube channel. Okay, the YouTube video is a past workshop that I did. But those of you who want to come for the workshop on the 26th of May, right? Later on, I'll show you how you can access where you can register. Okay, it's the same place that you register for today's workshop. Okay, so when we are talking about problem solver, personal branding, essentially what we're trying to do is attract opportunities by becoming a problem solver, by communicating to people that you can solve their problems. So in other words, you got to be very specific already. You cannot just be a jack of all trades and be everything to everyone. No, you got to be very specific and be sure that these are the problems you can solve. Okay. Now, in today's world, the most extensive platform for personal branding is essentially through social media. Like it or not, it's through social media. Okay, so this is something that is in today's world, right? It's not like in the old days. I know a lot of us, especially the older generation, we don't like to say, oh, social media, I don't like it. I get a lot of exposure to scams and all that sort of thing. Yes, that is true. There's always the bad and the good points behind social media, right? But we just need to know how to use it. Okay. So essentially, right, why social media is so important is because of this premise again. Employers are risk averse. So when they are risk averse, what happens? They will use social media to look you up. Nearly all recruiters use LinkedIn, but over 40% they say they use Twitter and Facebook as well. And in many cases, they look you up before they call you up for interview. Not after they call you up. They look you up before they call you up for interview. Okay? 93% of hiring managers review candidate social profiles before making contact. Right? Just what I said. Okay? And apart from looking at professional experience, they also look for connections in common, right? And also previous work and fit. Now, this item, previous connection, mutual connections, is important because to them, they prefer to know who are the people that they are going to call up. So if they can talk to someone and say, hey, what is Sharon like? You know, before I call her up, do you think she's suitable for my job? Yeah, that's what they will do. Okay, so this cannot be, you cannot get away from this. So those of you who have limited presence in social media, I'm not saying you go head on and expose everything, but you need to manage your presence. And I don't have time to talk about it today, but it will be in the personal branding video or in the workshop that you attend. Okay, so I'm gonna just give you a few broad strokes about LinkedIn because that is the usually the most biggest bang for buck, okay, in terms of getting exposure. Now, LinkedIn is very good vehicle for building brand and reputation. Now, okay, you can build relationships on LinkedIn, but you always have to sort of make sure that there's a reason for them to connect up with you, which means they have to know what you can do and how you can help them. Okay, you got to make it easy for everyone to reach out to you. So make sure that your contact information is on LinkedIn. Okay, and whatever you post, whatever materials you share, whatever articles you write on LinkedIn, be consistent. Be consistent to how you want to present yourself online, right? Especially if you're saying I'm very good in a particular area, then therefore whatever sharing or news or information that you're going to put on LinkedIn, be consistent with that positioning. Okay, now few other things. One thing LinkedIn is very good at is really these two aspects. It helps you define yourself, it helps you market what you are good at. Okay, and how this happens. When you put in LinkedIn, you put in keywords, you put in problem solving statements, you put in USPs, accomplishments, and all that. Right? These will be picked up when someone searches these keywords. Okay, then your profile will come up. Okay? What else? When you have endorsements and recommendations, that's a way that you can define yourself to the people within LinkedIn. Okay, when you have many recommendations or many endorsements, people say, "Oh, wow, Lily Ong is very good in this particular area. I just saw that a lot of people say that thing about her." Okay, join groups, follow target companies is a way to make yourself your presence known to these companies, because these companies will track people who follow them. Eh? Believe you me, they track. Okay, sharing, contributing knowledge, sharing opinions is also another way to define and market yourself. Okay, so LinkedIn, no, there's a lot of information online about how you use LinkedIn. So by all means, make sure that if you really want to have a strong presence online or do some personal branding, make sure you have a significant presence there. Okay, so that's the key thing. Now, let's deal with the other portion on how you can reach out. In other words, rather than waiting for opportunities to come to you, how you can move forward and connect up with people. Right? Network. I like to call it relationships. Right? Because if I say network, everybody goes, "Wow, I don't like networking. I'm so shy, or yeah, it's so false and all that." Let me tell you. Let me dispel a few myths for networking. Okay, maybe that will give you a bit more comfort. Right? Firstly, is it true that networking is a natural ability? No, it's not. No, it is a social skill. It's a bit like dancing. If you want to do it right, you need to practice at it. You want to do it right, you need to practice at it. Okay? Are extroverts better at networking? What do you guys think? Are extroverts better in networking? Extroverts are good at what? Extroverts are good at talking. Okay? So imagine yourself when you go and meet someone new, first time you meet them, and they start talking to you. How do you feel? You don't have a chance to contribute, right? So extroverts are not necessarily not necessarily better networkers. Okay, so it is not about talking as much as possible, because and in fact I would argue that non-extroverts, I won't call it introverts, I call it non-extroverts, sometimes are better relationship builders because they are willing to listen. You are good listeners. Those of you who are not extroverts, right? You will probably be good listeners. And many people value good listeners. Okay? What's the next myth? It's about knowing as many people as possible. Well, I like to flip this around. It is not about how many thousands of connections you have. It's about how well you know the people that you're connected up with. So it is the depth of connection. It's the depth of connection. It is not about, oh, I've got 12,000 connections on LinkedIn, therefore I'm set. Yes and no. You must know a few of them well enough so that they can help you. There's a relationship in there. Okay? So let's talk about then who do you build relationship with? Type into the chat box, who do you think would be the easiest people to build a relationship with or build a network with? You type into the chat box, who are the easiest people to build connections with? Anyone? Who are the most easy people to do? Colleagues, peers, friends, old classmates? Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it is actually not that difficult to build a network. Okay, because all of us have got friends, colleagues, school alumni. Yeah, people in target companies may be slightly more difficult, but it is possible, right? Industry peers is also the other one. Okay, yeah, colleagues or classmates, right? Now, I want to get you all familiar with this concept of what? First degree, second degree, third degree. You look at this diagram here, okay? First degree is people who are direct. Second degree is people who are indirect. Third degree is people who are slightly more distant, okay? Now, it is a known fact, it is a known fact that what? People with moderately weak ties, that means in the second or third degree, are the most useful and than the strongest ties. Okay, so it is not about who you know as a first degree of contact. It is more about who they know that can help you. Who they know that can help you. So for those of you who are saying, oh, you only got 10 people in my network, only got 5 or 15 or 20 or 50 people in the network, and no, they all can't help me. That's where you're wrong. They may know people who can help you. Okay? Now then how do we establish contact with the second degree and third degree? Well, show you an example. You can send out invitation. Okay? So for example, like this person, I found out your profile through a mutual connection. I'm currently exploring career paths in this industry and my experience. I would love to join your network. Okay? So this could be the first step. This could be the first step. You know? If he joins, he agrees, great. Right? Don't worry if he doesn't. Because sometimes people don't. I don't accept invitations, every single invitation. I don't do that. Okay, because sometimes I look at how can this person help me, or how I can help that person. Okay, so that is an important aspect. Now, how you then connect up with people, that other ways to connect up with people, I'm going to share with you a little bit later on. All right, so for those of you who have that who are just going to type into the chat box and say, but how? Okay, I'm going to address that very soon. So let me then very quickly make sure that we understand this. When we are building relationships, it is not about the red box. You see that red box there? It is not about saying, oh, I connect up with that person because I want jobs. No, it is about those things in the yellow box. Okay, you want to build a relationship so that they're your supporter, right? They give you information. They connect up with you, you with other people. They refer you, or they refer a job to you. Okay, that will be the emphasis. It's not the red box. It is the yellow box. Okay, so again, I emphasize this, it's not about looking for a job, it's making sure you develop credibility with your network. Okay, so please remember this. All right. Okay, this is not a networking workshop because it can be as big a topic that I can do a separate one, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to give you some broad strokes overview. Lots of information out there. Okay, build relationships and trust. One of the priorities of building a network. Okay, get more information, especially those that are not visible to the open market. Okay, and when you have a network or relationship with people, they trust you, they're more than willing to share with you. Create awareness. So when you meet someone, and which I'm going to share with you a very good way of doing so later, when you meet someone, you have a chat with them, they like you, they form a relationship with you, they know that Hanafiya wants to do something. Okay, so they are aware of Hanafiya and say, okay, I'll keep this in mind. Next time when I know of an opportunity that Hanafiya is interested in, I'll link them up. Okay, finding commonality to connect is a very strong point when you're building network. Okay, so those of you like referrals, colleagues, friends, alumni, all those things. Okay, put this in a red box. I emphasize this again. Do not ask for a job. Make sure when you're building a relationship, it's not you taking things. You also have to add value to them. Otherwise, why would they want to connect up with you? Okay. And one of the things that you need to make sure you do is be prepared. When you're reaching out to someone, you need to know what they do, who they are, what they're good at. Okay, you need to be prepared. Okay, so Jenny has a question. A friend referred me to a job. There's no response for 2 weeks after emailing to that person who may be the hiring person. Please advise how to do. I email to this person to inquire. Position is still available. Well, Jenny, the first thing I would do is really to contact the person who referred you and say, hey, this is the situation. What should I do? Because that person may know the other person well, that he may advise you to say, yeah, just follow up and just email him. Or he may say, oh, you better not chase him because he might be annoyed. Okay, so get that first instance from the person who referred you, and then get the input from him whether it's a good idea to email him. Okay, so that will be my first point. Okay, right. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this topic of informational interviews, I'm going to show you a short video of what this is all about. Okay, and this is really a very strong vehicle for you to establish connections with people who you want to emulate, or with people who are working in companies that you want to work for. Okay, so let me sort of share this video with you. And essentially, information interviews is something that will help you build relationships, that will help you find hidden opportunities. And the person who you conducted an information interview with can be your own recruiter network. Wow, don't you think that's so powerful? All right, let's take a look at this video.
An informational interview is an amazingly powerful tool. It can help you learn about different types of work you're interested in. And by providing inside perspective, it may even connect you to opportunities you couldn't see from the outside. So let's take a look at what informational interviewing is all about. An informational interview is not a job interview, and it's not a tricky play to get a job. If you're asking for a job and they do have one, then they'll likely start judging whether you're a good fit. And if they don't have one, then that conversation ends there. The key to a successful informational interview is curiosity. With sincere curiosity and good questions about your interviewee's life and experience, you gain insights into their successes and failures, how they got where they are, and what's important to them. Your curiosity will lead to an authentically engaged conversation, which also opens the door for the interviewee to get curious about you. The professional you're speaking with might say something like, wow, you're asking some really good questions. And in that transition, informational interviewing becomes even more valuable for someone looking for work. Informational interviews give you an opportunity to see what kinds of work resonate with you and help you determine what communities you would like to be a part of. In a good informational interview, the professional you speak with gets a lot out of the conversation too. They get to discuss their life and their work with someone who's curious about their experience and values their expertise. Plus, they get the pleasure of talking with someone who's genuinely interested in what they do. How do you do it well? Here are 5 tips to get you started. First, do your homework. Take some time to research LinkedIn or other online platforms to learn about the professional you're interviewing. Consider what questions you have about their life and work. The second tip is to try to meet in person. On the phone is okay, but face-to-face is best. 3, always try to buy the coffee or lunch. Your interviewee is giving you their time. Paying is a good way of showing your appreciation and beginning to create a connection. 4, ask your interviewee who else they recommend you talk with. If the interview has gone well, they may be willing to connect you to other professionals you can learn from and who might have opportunities for you. Finally, tip number 5. After the interview, send a thank you. Email is okay, but a handwritten note is even better. And if they ask you to keep them posted on your progress, do so.
Okay. Informational interview is a very powerful tool. Now, some of you may think, no, it's not done in Singapore, it's only done in the Western world. No, it is done here many times. Maybe they don't call it informational interviews, right? It has happening, it's been happening, okay? Essentially, what is this all about? You can see from the video, okay? You are creating awareness with the person that you're talking to, okay? All idea you want to make sure you get more information, right? How you connect with the person is the trick here is to find something in common to connect up with that person, right? Could be you're saying that, oh, we have someone in common, oh, we both attended the same school, or we both attended the event, or or you can say that, hey, I read your article, I really liked it, that sort of thing. So find something that both of you can talk about and something in common, okay? Don't ask for a job, please, okay? That's not your purpose of the information interview. It's not to ask for a job, okay? Focus on him or her, the person that you're talking to, okay? You are asking them questions, they are responding back to you, okay? And many a time people like that because it shows that you are interested in what they do. You are interested in how they become successful. You'll be surprised that many people like to talk about that, okay? So you build relationships and trust, okay? So important. And you must be prepared. You must be prepared. Now, in the worksheet, let me just pull it up again. I've got lots of stuff there on informational interviews. Let me just pull this down. Okay, where are they? Got this LinkedIn. Let's go to page 21 onwards. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here about informational interviews, how you prepare, right? Preparations and all. So as I go along, you see those things captured here. All right. So let me very quickly give you an overview of this because of time. All right. I can't do very much. But let's say preparations. How do you prepare for an informational interview? Well, the first thing is something that I've already gone through with you. You got to know what you are good at. Okay, who you are, what you're good at, what your specialty is, what motivates you. You need to know that. No point going to someone and that person asks you, oh, okay, what's your experience? What motivates you? Then you say, don't know. Does that give a good impression? No, it doesn't. Okay, so you got to be very clear about what you are good at, what motivates you. Okay. Back of your mind, you know the thing. Okay, by meeting up with this person, what do I gain? What information am I looking for? How can this interview help you? Okay. Again, I mentioned this. Okay, you got to prepare for the interview by trying to determine what you have in common. You got to know who the person you're talking to is. Okay, and you prepare questions. Prepare questions, good questions. Okay, which I'll give you examples later on. Right. So those of you who want to take a screenshot of this, please do so. Okay, I don't think this is represented in the handouts. You want to take a screenshot, by all means do so. Okay. All right. So how to conduct an interview? How to conduct an interview? Right. So I mentioned this again. This is in the worksheet. Okay. So first things first, you build trust. How do you build trust? How do you build trust? It's exactly like when you meet someone for the first time, right? Okay, you want a person to like you. You're genuinely interested in that person. You're genuinely curious about what that person does. You don't want to be sorry, I don't want to offend any insurance salespeople. You don't want to keep selling them things. Okay, you don't want to keep selling them things. So the focus is on them. Focus is on them. But if the conversation is smooth, then they will also ask things about you. All right, so you have to be prepared to share things about yourself, why you are interested, to find out more from him, right? And find something in common. That is the fastest way to break the ice. Find something in common. That is the fastest way to break the ice. Okay? Questions. What effective questions can you ask? The whole premise here in informational interview is that you want to treat that person like an expert. So you value his insights, and eventually, hopefully, you can sort of look at him like a mentor. Okay, that is the end goal of a informational interview relationship. Maybe you can't do that in the first go, but maybe through repeated visits. Okay, so you want to ask them, what made them successful, their success factors. What do they think I need to do in order to become as successful as you? Okay, ask their advice, ask for their recommendation. What do you think, Mr. A, I should do if I want to progress in the industry like what you're doing now? So ask questions like that. Okay, then in the process of asking, okay, you are then assimilating the information that he's giving you. So so you get things like what the company is looking for, what are the opportunities that the company is giving, and what are the opportunities that role has. Okay, then that gives you an idea of whether that role is or that company is right for you. Okay, and then when you're closing, you must be polite. You must thank them. You must thank them for spending the time with you. Okay, and obviously you must follow up. So it's not about just seeing them once, then after that you forget already. No, you have to follow up. Okay, especially if you want to build relationship, right? Building relationship is not just one off. It's repeated. You follow up. So if you promise to keep in touch, you promise to keep them up to date, keep that promise. Okay, keep that promise. Okay, so you want to take a screenshot of this while I look at the questions here. Okay, so there's a question. What if the other party is unfriendly and show impatience? Well, first of all, if the other parties are unfriendly and show impatience, it's probably unlikely that they're going to grant you an interview in the first place. Right? But if they grant you an interview and then they are already unfriendly, then obviously you are uphill task to uphill challenge. Okay, so here again is about how you then engage with that person. There's no hard and fast rules here, right? You have to then try and make sure that you know what that person is interested in, Okay, so that's why it sort of feels you need to sort of dig deeper as to what are the trigger points. Get to know that person, then ask questions like, for example, one of the biggest striking points for any conversation starter is saying that I'm so impressed by your career today, and I like to emulate your career path. Can you just share with me how did you become so successful? Wow, imagine if somebody asks you this, how good you feel, right? So chances are he'll be willing to share, unless he's got time constraint. If he's got time constraint, then you got no choice. Then you have to keep it short and sharp. Maybe you have a follow-up, right? So the thing here is this, right? Not every informational interview can be successful. Okay, not every informational interview can be successful, but you got to give it a try. You got to give it a try. You got to get out of your comfort zone if you are not comfortable with doing this, because again, like I said, this is an active process. It's not a passive process. So to the comment about there's so many things you need to do, there is a few, but you just take it step at a time. Okay, there's a question. What is your opinion about informational interview conducted over text instead of face-to-face? My short answer is not very good. Okay, because sometimes you can, when you text someone you hardly know, does that help you build a relationship? Chances are no. Okay, so focus is on building a relationship. It's not getting information. Okay, text can, But building a relationship is not just texting alone. If he cannot meet up and he's willing to text, okay, maybe you do so for a while, but later on, eventually, it's so much better to seal the relationship by meeting up. Okay, so that's the key thing. All right. The last few minutes, probably about half an hour, right? We were talking about how you develop effective activities to attract hidden opportunities, to be a magnet, and how you actually reach out to people. Okay? Now, again, underlying premise is this. It is not about you. It is about what? It's about how you can help them. Okay? So I keep coming back to this. All right? All right. Okay. All right. So now it's 3:55. I think instead of me giving you a 5-minute break, can I just complete all the rest of the stuff? Okay. Then, you've got any further questions towards the end, let's answer this. Okay. So the next one I'm going to talk about is this portion on tips and tricks. And I'm particularly going to address people who are in the later career stages, which I think many of you are at right now. Okay, so because this is something which I feel is so important, that many people who are more experienced, more in the later stages, sometimes they forget about things because they are so used to the old ways of doing things. And what I'm going to suggest to you now may be so different from what you are used to, right? But believe you me, they are very, very effective. Okay, first thing, instead of looking and scouring for job openings, okay, can you do the legwork, like what we were talking about just now? Identifying companies, identifying what their problems are. So identifying pain points. Okay, so it's not about job openings anymore. In this context of hidden jobs, it is not about job opening. It's about what problems they are facing. Okay. Once you know that, you anticipate what they need. Okay. And that's where you then start thinking, can I help them? All right. From here, you can start thinking about whether that job is or that organization is the right organization for you. Okay. Hiring formats, I just mentioned just now, have changed over the years, right? Contract work is now more or less the norm. Okay. Now, apart from contract work, there are other ways, especially for those of you who are more experienced and more later part. Okay. You got to think about, instead of permanent roles, can you deliver value in a different way, right? Whether it's on project basis, whether it's on consulting basis, whether it's even on gig basis, gig working, okay, or freelance, right? As long as you are able to add value, as long as you're able to generate income from adding value, because adding value means you are able to earn income. If you don't add value, income will not come. Okay, so that's the key thing. Now, the other thing for this group, and I think it applies to everyone, okay, when you're focusing on how to convince people, right, instead of focusing on saying what you say, maybe you start thinking about show what you can do. So in other words, showing evidence of what you can do. When you're engaging with the other party, whether it's an interview or whether it's networking, your conversation has to be active. Instead of, I know many of us, when we are in the older generation, we just a bit tired, right? We don't like to do a lot of engagement, networking and all that. But this is something, maybe something you need to rethink. Okay, conversation, add value, listen to that person, what their problems are, see what you can do. Okay, highlight accomplishments, what you have done, especially those of you who have a lot of experience. What have you done? Okay. Many people, employers always feel that, oh no, I don't like to hire older people because they may not work well with my younger colleagues. Then you have to show evidence that you are able to work with younger colleagues or have teamwork. Okay, so coming back to this portion about social visibility, social media visibility. Okay, instead of focusing on your resume is a very passive vehicle. No? It's a very passive vehicle. It is not about Because the only time people read your resume is when you apply for a job. I urge you to think about what is a step before that, and this is where social proof comes in. So heighten up your social presence, social media presence, so that employers will find you. Employers will find you. You have an extensive network. Nurture those connections, leverage on those connections. Okay. And when you are out there, okay, building networks, be involved, be responsive to what people say and what people request. Right? Don't just be passive and just keep quiet. Okay? You know things, you know people, be responsive and be active about it. Okay? So this is not in the handout. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, by all means do so. Okay, while I scan the comments here. Yes. Okay, that was a very good reply from Sarah about being feeling overwhelmed. All right. Take a break where you need, take it one step at a time. Take it one step at a time. Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. Okay. All right. So those are the tips and tricks. All right. So let me summarize. It is now 4:01. Let me summarize this and then we can have a general Q&A. All right, let me summarize it and we can have a general Q&A. I want to come back to what Gary was asking early on and some other people have been asking as well. Okay, we spent the last couple of hours talking about attacking the hidden market. And what did we talk about? What did we talk about? Essentially, the first thing we looked at was how we what are the hiring trends, right? How it affects the way we find jobs. Because at the end of the day, once we know how employers think, we know what we need to do. All right, and we captured the things that we need to do in those 4 boxes up here. Okay, being very targeted, being very relevant, building relationships, and focusing on how you can help. Focusing on how you can help. Then we talked about this portion, how we identify what our unique selling proposition is, USP, unique selling proposition, what we value at, so that we can position ourselves in the best possible way to the companies that we want to work for. Okay, so we need to really know ourselves, okay, so that we are able to identify what problems we can solve. Once we have that idea of what problems we can solve, we can take that and go look at which companies have got those problems. Okay, and then you become an asset already. You don't become a risk because you are able to help them. You are able to help them. Okay. Last part just now was talking about how we develop effective activities to attract opportunities. Okay. Here it is about reaching out. Here it is about making sure that people know what you do, right? And 2 primary ways you can do this. One is through personal branding, and the other one is reaching out and moving on to talking to people. Okay. Now, underlying all this, I mentioned this straight on earlier on. Right? Underlying all this is the fact that we need to be proactive. We cannot be passive anymore. That's the first key thing. That's the first key thing. The second key thing here is not about you, it's about how you can help them. It's not about you, but how you can help them. Okay. All right. So I want to address another question, which I think Gary asked earlier on, which I think a couple of other people have implied as well. Okay. So is this question? How to create opportunities or interest among key decision makers for a role which does not exist or exists in a less strategic capacity, but would be a game changer if the enterprise makes it a number 1 priority for them. Okay, thanks Gary for this very interesting question. And the best way I can answer this is really sharing about my own personal experiences. Okay, because that's exactly what I've done. That's exactly what I've done. Let me share with you. Right, I shifted from IT to FMCG. When I shifted to FMCG, that role was a very small role, but eventually became a big role. Okay. Then I moved into consumer electronics, where from an FMCG environment moving to consumer electronics, okay, I had to make sure that whatever I bring to the table was relevant, okay, and I had to show results. Okay, then I moved to HR consulting, right? And then I had to show that whatever experiences I gained from the others, what was my best value add? My best value add was managing the business of the HR company. Okay, so and again, quick results. Okay, I'm going to summarize all this in a little box later. Okay, then I went into hotel and leisure industry. Okay, again, from HR to hotel and leisure, how can you convince people? Well, I basically said the combination of all those experiences I had allows me a very broad overview of market trends and industry and all that. And it just so happens the opportunities I went into in hotel and leisure suited that background. Okay, and then lastly, I went into education management, where I combine all the skills and experience I had into managing a academic program in a local university. Okay, now how did I do this? Essentially, I was building networks. I went through a lot of my opportunities here were basically through people I know. Okay, and they know me, so they know how I can add value. Okay, right? So personal branding becomes a very strong essence already, because before I was called up for these interviews, they looked at my social media and said, hey, Ewan can do this. He's got the experience. I can translate to this. Okay. What are transferable strengths? Here, remember, I actually emphasize the word strengths, not skills, transferable strengths. Okay, so it's not just about skills alone. It's about how you use your skills and experience and competency to help solve their problem. Okay, so that's why I had to go to pains of identifying what company pain points there are. Okay, so like for example, the last one, educational management. I had to identify what the pain point was. The pain point was that they were very low in rankings. They were had a very poor morale in that business unit. They were having low turnouts in their student recruitment. They were having very poor quality students. Okay, so those were the pain points. I had the skills, I had the experience to be able to solve those pain points. Okay, I had to show examples. Of what I could do. So during the interviews, I share those experiences with them. In my resume, I make sure that my accomplishment statements showed those relevant examples. Okay. Obviously, when you get in, you're still on probation, so you're gonna make sure you have some results very quickly. Okay, and show them, yes, you can do it. Yeah, that role is really important. Then you have to make sure that you have the foresight to anticipate issues coming down. Okay, so a lot of things to do, but those are reinforcing each other. Okay, so I don't know if Gary, that helps you to have a little deeper insight into. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the only way, but I'm just using that my own example as a way to illustrate the question that you've asked. Okay, but before that, I need your help. I need your help to fill up the feedback survey for this particular workshop itself. Okay, so this is a requirement from WSG. So let me copy that link into the chat box. So I'm going to give you some time to do this particular survey. Then later on, after this survey, I'm going to go into the next portion where I will give you an idea of how you can access the link to this workshop. All right, the video link to this workshop. At the same time, those of you who are interested in connecting up with me or continuing to work with me, I'm also going to give you more insights into this. For those of you who have been to my workshops before, this is not new to you. Okay, so if you would like to leave, I wish you well. Okay, maybe I hope to see you in the next workshop here. You can see all the workshop links are here. Okay, the dates rather. The link is in the same workshop or the same place that you're registered for this workshop. Okay. Now, just to note, 16th of May, this live workshop, which is face-to-face, there's a limitation, I believe, of 30 people only. 30 people only. Okay, so if you really want to go for that live workshop, please register early. Probably end of April, it should be open already. Okay, Esther, you're keen to know how to coach. I'm going to talk about this in a little while. Okay, so 5 minutes, all right? Then I see you guys back for the last portion for those of you who are interested. If not, the rest of you, I thank you for your time. I'm going to hopefully see you in the next workshop. All right, 5 minutes, I'll come back. Okay, thank you so much for filling up the form, feedback form. I see there are about 100 people still here, so I guess there are people who are interested in this. Now, coming back to this question about the link, that's the next slide I'm going to show you. Okay, so that's the next slide. All right. Okay, so for those of you who are wanting a link to this video, okay, what I need to do is for you to fill up this form, which I put it into the chat box. Okay, I need you to give, in this form is basically permission for me to send things to you. All right, so and what I do is that I only send a newsletter once a month. Okay, so for the next newsletter, which is happening in now it's March, April. Okay, I'm going to send you the link to this particular workshop, but also a link to the second workshop, which is happening end of this month. Okay, so now those of you who don't want to then get exposed to other mailers, by all means you can unsubscribe, so that's okay. All right, so the link to this form is in the chat box if you want to have a video recording of this particular workshop itself. Okay, so that's one. Hopefully that satisfies those people who have been asking me about this, clamoring for this. Okay, next one is this. Those of you who want to continue the conversation with me, by all means connect up with me on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's my LinkedIn profile name, very easy to understand, LIMYW. Okay, and then at the same time, I also have a couple of workshop this Facebook group as well as the YouTube channel. Okay, so again, you can see the items there. So if you want, you can take a look at those places itself. All right, so next thing. Those of you who are then keen on wanting me to help you with some career coaching aspects, okay? So just to share with you, let me just maybe copy that LinkedIn because that may not be so intuitive. Okay, so let me copy that link in. Okay. Okay, so this is a link to my website where it gives you more information about coaching and all that. All right, so I have different packages that describes all the different coaching aspects. So please do take a look there. Okay, that's if you are interested. All right, then I think there was one or two questions about how to become a career coach. So if you're interested to get to know more about this, all right, you can email me. That's my email address, or you can. I will give you the link to that more information about that coaching course as well. All right, so you can take a look at that. Okay, it's in the chat box again. Okay, so again, basically the coaching course that I do is basically an internationally recognized coaching credential. Right, so those of you who are interested, you can take a look at that. All right, my final slide is basically a wish you well slide. But before I round off, basically, I just want to make sure that you all understand something very simple. Okay, we are so engrossed in capabilities, skills, and all that. I'm not saying it's not important. Okay, ability is what you're capable of doing. Yeah, but motivation determines what you can do. Right, but attitude determines how well you do it. Okay, so I hope that you take this to heart, because I just want to make sure that we don't be too engrossed in this whole notion of focusing on just skills and qualifications as the way to get a job. That is too short term. Okay, the other things matter. The other things matter. Okay, so hopefully you spend the last 2.5 hours or so, you found it useful for you. The things that I've shared with you. And hopefully you can take this away and embark on a more progressive process of finding the right job. Okay? So if there's nothing else, everyone, I just want to wish all of you the best of success. Okay? So again, keep in touch. Right? If nothing else, hopefully you can keep up to date with me, or let me know how you are doing. Okay? So nothing else. Just say bye-bye to everyone. Thank you so much for all your great comments. Really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.